The water's been cold for a few minutes now. You're still standing there. Under the shower, the soap gone from your hand, your hair rinsed clean a while ago. You don't reach over to shut it off, and you don't step out. The bathroom door is the only lock in the house nobody has a reason to knock on. 10 minutes ago, your wife's sister called, crying about a marriage coming apart. You listened to all of it. You said the right things at the right moments. You told her to get some sleep. Last night, your son texted about something at work, and you answered line by line, clear, calm, the way you always do. Not one of them asked you back a single question. And you, how are you tonight? It isn't that they don't care. It's that in their minds, the question has nowhere to land. For a man who is always the support, it sounds backwards, like asking a wall if it's tired. Standing under water gone cold, you realize the thing draining out of you isn't quite water. It's something you've never had a name for. Most people would look at a man like you and think, here's the one who's fine, the one who needs no looking after. The truth runs the other way. That steadiness isn't proof you don't need connection. It's proof you learned how to keep anyone from seeing when you do. The exhaustion you carry isn't from giving too much. It's the signal of a position no one ever asked whether you wanted. The position of always being the one who holds, never the one who gets held. And that position has a name, along with what it's been quietly trying to show you. This has a name in psychology, but the name matters less than what it describes. Some children get pushed into the role of an adult before they've finished being a child, because of how a family is built. A father who isn't there, a mother stretched too thin, a crisis that arrives earlier than it should. No one says it out loud. There's no family meeting that declares, from now on, you're the one everyone leans on. It comes through hundreds of small moments. A word of praise for being good, for looking after your younger siblings. The relief in your mother's eyes when she sees you handle your own problem. The time you swallowed your own fear so you wouldn't become one more weight on a grown-up. That child learns a survival lesson. I have worth when I'm useful, when I'm steady, when I'm not anyone's problem. And he learns it so well that by the time he's grown, the lesson isn't a strategy anymore. It's the whole of who he is. The problem is this: a child learns to brace himself to survive one specific house, at one specific time. The man he becomes keeps bracing the same way, in every house, every relationship, for the rest of his life, even when no one is asking for it anymore, even when the people around him now would hold him up if he gave them the chance. The mechanism doesn't switch off just because the situation changed. It keeps running, like a machine set once that no one ever taught to turn off. And because the original lesson was worth equals useful, his brain reads every moment of weakness as a direct threat, a threat to whether he still deserves to be there. So he doesn't avoid weakness because he's strong by nature. He avoids it because for him, letting it show once meant losing his place. You're not broken. You're doing exactly what a child in your position, in that house, was taught to do to survive. The reflex that's making you lonely today was once the only thing that kept you safe. The first layer you could call the captain's armband, no one voted on. In any group of people, a family, a circle of close friends, a department at work, there's an unspoken position, the person everyone turns to when bad news lands, before they dare ask the real question. Like a team that never held a meeting to elect a captain, but everyone knows who the ball comes back to at the tensest moment. No one asked whether you wanted to wear that band. It was simply assigned, quietly, through every time you were the first to say, "It's fine, I'll handle it." Picture a man at a family gathering. Word comes that his grandfather has to be admitted to the hospital. He feels every set of eyes turn toward him before the doctor has even finished the sentence. And a familiar reflex fires in his head. Everyone's waiting for me to say something so they can feel okay. And no one is waiting to say that thing for me. This post has no days off, no one to cover a shift. And most of all, no one checks whether the person holding it is all right, because the very existence of the post assumes he always is. But being seen as everyone's support is only the surface. Underneath it, there's a mechanism that makes it nearly invisible to the very people you love most. The second layer is what you could call the wallpaper effect. People only notice what changes, or what's at risk of breaking. A cracked vase gets noticed right away. Wallpaper doesn't. It's been there so long the eye stops truly seeing it. It dissolves into the background. It becomes a default part of the room. Your steadiness, after enough years, has become wallpaper in the lives of the people around you. Your kids can spot the moment a friend changes their haircut. They notice a new pair of shoes, but it's been a long time since they asked their father an open question. Something like, "How have you been lately?" Not because they don't care. They simply never had to learn the skill, because you never gave them the chance to practice it. A man sits at the dinner table, listening to his daughter lay out every detail of a fight with her best friend. He offers a word here and there, and as the meal winds down, one thing runs through his head, plain and clean. I know everything about every person sitting at this table, and not one of them knows a single thing about me. The danger of the wallpaper effect isn't being forgotten in one moment. It's being forgotten systematically, year after year, until you yourself forget you were ever a wall that could crack. And this layer still isn't the heaviest, because it at least shows others carry some of the blame. The next one shows that you're the one who built the rules of the game. The third layer you could call the reflex save. Picture a goalkeeper so good that after a while, the other side stops shooting at that goal at all. Not because they're going easy, because they know for certain the ball will be stopped, every single time. So they slowly look for another way to attack. You're that goalkeeper. Except here, the ball is the honest questions other people mean to ask you. Someone just asked how you're doing. Really? And you've already caught the question clean and booted it back out with a joke. Or an, "I'm fine, tell me about you," before you even registered what you did. A man having lunch with his closest friend hears that question, and an automatic reflex fires. Don't turn his lunch into my therapy session. He changes the subject in under 2 seconds. The friend isn't stupid. After being blocked a few times, people learn the unwritten rule, and they stop shooting your way. Not because they've stopped caring, because they've been trained, by you, that this goal never opens. This is the layer most easily mistaken for something else. From the outside, it looks exactly like modesty, like maturity, like not wanting to be a bother. But behind that perfect reflex save is a cost the final layer reveals in full. The fourth layer you could call the quiet disappearing act. It doesn't show up as any action. It shows up as an empty space. Imagine a cook who's fed other people for 20 years. He knows by heart the taste of every person in the house, remembers who can handle spice, who's allergic to what. And one day someone asks him back, "So what do you like to eat?" And he freezes. He genuinely can't remember, because that question was never asked often enough for him to keep the answer. There's a man who, on a weekend, gets asked by his wife the most ordinary question, "What do you feel like doing this weekend?" And he goes quiet a few seconds too long. Not because he's weighing options, because inside there's genuinely nothing there. And the only thought that drifts past is this: I remember what everyone in this house likes, except my own. The muscle you'd use to want something for yourself has gone unused so long, it's atrophied. He answers with a familiar line, "Whatever you want, you decide." And it sounds like being easygoing, but it's really a way to dodge a question he no longer knows how to answer. This is the real cost of being everyone's support for too long. Not burnout. Burnout you can at least rest and recover from. This is a gentler kind of disappearing, and a far more dangerous one, because no one, not even you, notices that someone is vanishing. There's a hinge moment in this story. It's where the thing that was a way to survive quietly turns into something else. A suit of armor. I don't need anyone. I can handle it. I don't want to be a burden. Those lines start as a child's temporary strategy, but over the years, they harden into an identity you're proud of. You start telling that story to yourself as a strength, not a scar. And here's the real tragedy. The armor that keeps you from getting hurt is the same thing that keeps anyone from reaching you, including the people standing very close. The ones genuinely wanting to hold you up, just once. Every time you block an honest question, wave off a hand held out to you, say, "I'm fine," you're not only defending yourself, you're stepping one step further back from the very ties that could save you. Defense, over time, has taken the place of real presence. And this needs to be said plainly, right now. Understanding the mechanism isn't enough. Knowing its name doesn't make it lighter. The problem was never about managing this loneliness better, bracing more skillfully. The problem is that your relationship with it has to change. The way out here isn't to be less lonely. It's to stop turning that loneliness into a suit of armor you have to put on every day. The first thing, the story you're telling about yourself isn't the whole truth. "I don't need anyone" isn't an accurate description of who you are. It's a line you memorized to survive one specific house, at one specific age. And it worked, back then. The problem is, that house doesn't exist anymore. But you still keep its key in your pocket. You still try it in every new lock you meet in life, even though none of them fit. You can tell yourself a different line, a simpler one. "This is what I learned to survive once." It's not the whole of who I am now. It sounds small, but that's where everything begins to loosen. The second, the ability to take something from another person is a different muscle from the ability to give, and it's gone unused a long time. It doesn't come back with one big test of strength. It's like an arm just out of a cast after months. You don't ask it to carry a suitcase right away. You let it hold a cup first. You don't need to start by pouring out every wound to someone. You just need, next time, to let a friend pay for the coffee without grabbing it back. That's all. You can remind yourself, let this stay small. There's nothing to prove. That muscle remembers how to work faster than you'd think. The third, and maybe the most important, being beside someone without needing to fix anything, without needing to prove you're still useful, is also a real form of connection. Sometimes more real than any time you stepped in to help. You don't need to earn another person's presence by always being the useful one. You can tell yourself, "I don't have to do anything to deserve to sit here." Picture two men sitting side by side on a bench out on a porch. Not turned toward each other to interrogate, just looking the same direction. At the street, at a sky going dark, neither needing to say anything for 15 minutes. And both knowing it isn't awkward silence. It's one of the rare moments you get to be there, without holding any role at all. That night, after all the calls, after a meal where no one asked you a single question, your wife walks into the kitchen. You're standing there, leaning against the counter, doing nothing. She doesn't ask what's wrong. She just puts her hand on the counter, next to yours. And she stands there a while, and this time, you don't fill the silence with a familiar line. You let it stay. The depth you carry, that ability to quietly bear weight without complaint, was never a burden to throw off. It's a kind of understanding of people that not everyone has. It's only been in the wrong place too long, used to carry others, instead of being seen by someone. If any part of this landed on you, leave a line. Say which layer it was. Chances are the person who reads that line is standing under water gone cold too. Alone, thinking he's the only one. For years, you were the counter other people leaned on. No one ever told you that you're allowed to set your own weight down on a counter of your own. It isn't something you have to build. It's only something you have to let yourself receive.